Hey, this is John, Happy Wife Acres. I'm out in the shop and working on a snowblower. Customer says, hey, it was running last year. I went to crank it up this year. It's not cranking. I know it was running good because I fixed it last year. So we are going to systematically figure out what's going on by just examining the facts. So if you remember from some previous videos, FACT stands for fuel, air, compression, timing, and spark. Now we're going to cut this list short because I'm going to scratch off air. And the reason is because this model doesn't even have an air filter. So I don't have to check for clogged air filter. It seems to be cranking okay. Air's getting in. So I'm not going to look at that. Timing. This is a 2-stroke. There's really nothing I can do about the timing other than to change out the Woodruff key, but the customer didn't say he hit anything. It didn't stop suddenly, so I'm not gonna look at that. But I am gonna look at fuel, compression, and spark, and it's probably one of these. I'm gonna start with fuel, and the reason is it's been sitting in the garage all summer long and winter, and condensation tends to get into the fuel tank and down into the carburetor, the bowl, somewhere in there. So I'm just going to make sure there's no water in the fuel. He said he put in some sea foam or something like that to stabilize the fuel, but we are going to take a look at that. So I loosened this shroud just so I could show you the carburetor. There is a bowl on this carburetor, and a lot of times if water gets in there, it will accumulate in the bowl. The way to take that off, there is a nut right up under here. You unscrew that and the bowl will drop down. Before I do that, I'm going to clamp off the fuel line. I just have a surgical clamp. Then I can just take this off. There'll be a little bit of drippage there. This will just wiggle off. And looking down in there, if you see water, it'll look like little pearls on the bottom. I see a lot of dirt, but I don't see water, so that's a good sign. I'm going to dump this out and I'll clean that out, reinstall it. Before I do that, I am going to release this just a little, just to run some fuel through that line. I'm going to clamp that off, and then I'll put this back on. Alright, so it appears that the carburetor is getting fuel. I can't vouch for how good the fuel is. I have not yet taken the time to flush the fuel tank. I'm going to do something here that some people might call a bit of a cheat, but it's a way to look at the fuel, compression, and spark all at the same time, and that is using a little starting fluid. So starting fluid will ignite almost when you sneeze on it. So if it does fire with a little starting fluid, it tells you you're getting compression and spark, and it may indicate that you're not getting a free flow of fuel. Doesn't take much of this because you don't want to flood it. I'm just going to spray a little bit down the carburetor. There we go. And I'm going to open the choke a bit, and then I'm going to give it a pull. All right, well, that tells me we have spark, and we probably have some compression. It went out right away after it started, and that tells me that we're having an issue with fuel flow. So I will investigate a little further. I did get it going, as you can probably tell in the shop, there's a lot of smoke. It is blue, and that means oil. So, and I can see oil all out of the exhaust pipe. So it looks like there's just way too much additive put in the fuel, is my guess. So I am going to get this outside after I button the shroud down, get it started again and let it run. And I'm going to blame this on fuel. Then I'm going to Probably flush the fuel tank and then put some clean mix in it. I'm going to do a fuel flush and give it a restart. To do the fuel flush, all I'm going to do is release that fuel line and drain it into a bucket and fill it up with fresh mix. So hopefully you can see the contrast. This is what came out of it. That's what's going in it. It's about the same amount. It's way too dark. Seems to run a whole lot better. So I'll let this sit overnight and then try and start it again tomorrow. And if so, this one is done. Bad fuel. Lesson here, if your piece of equipment sits all year, you're having trouble starting it, try a little starter fluid, try draining the fuel, put some fresh fuel in. Hey, thanks for joining, and we'll see you soon on the homestead. Bye.